Hey everyone, today we have a rather interesting topic of dolls to discuss, and that is Titanic dolls. Today is actually April 14th, the day that the Titanic collided with the iceberg at about 11:40 p.m., and by 2:20 a.m. April 15th, the ship had sunk and would never be seen again by human eyes until September 1985. So today we are dedicating some time and attention to this infamous disaster, which was so iconic we'd eventually get dolls inspired by it. I remember watching the movie when I was very young. My grandparents had the 2-video VHS set. Of course, there were scenes I was not allowed to watch, but I just thought that this movie was so epic, and I especially loved Rose's wardrobe. I mean, in general, all the costuming and the sets and the design was so spectacular. And on top of that, I've just always had a dark fascination with the Titanic and like shipwrecks in general and just the mysteries of the ocean. And clearly many others do as well, because apparently there's a market for dolls inspired by the Titanic. So let's take a look at some of them. So I'm gonna try my best to go in chronological order of when I think the dolls were released. I may have gotten some years or dates wrong. I apologize. First, we're going to look at this Rose doll made by Galoob from 1998. She, of course, is wearing the iconic red jumping dress that she wears when she meets Jack, and he essentially convinces her to get back on the ship. And I think this dress is really nice, very well constructed. It has a lot of nice beading details on it. And the face sort of looks like Kate Winslet. She looks a little deer in the headlights, which totally makes sense for this moment in the movie when she is wearing this dress. So I think they did a pretty decent job with the face. And this is the same company that would make the Spice Girls dolls and the Anastasia dolls. So she's using the same body that the Anastasia dolls and the later Spice Girls dolls had. And the inside of this box has a list of all of the Academy Awards that the movie was nominated for. Next, I believe in 1999, Robert Tonner would partner with FAO Schwarz for only 150 dolls. Yes, this was a very exclusive limited release of another Rose doll, but this time she is not the same size as Galoob. So the Galoob was your classic Barbie, 11.5 inches tall, where these dolls are about 16 inches tall. The way that I believe this worked is you could either buy just one doll wearing her boarding outfit, so the outfit she's wearing when she's boarding the ship, or you could also get the doll with this trunk set that would come with 2 other outfits. So it would come with the dress that Rose wears as she's walking down the grand staircase and Jack sees her, and then later they would go to a real party, as Jack says. And then this third dress, I really can't tell exactly what it is, but it almost looks like the dress she wears the morning after that party. She and Cal are having breakfast and he throws the table. The trunk set would also come with a lot of jewelry pieces, including the Heart of the Ocean necklace. Next, we would get our first knockoff dolls. So to capitalize on the 1997 James Cameron movie's success, we would get these dolls by, I believe, Way Out Toys, again, I think in 1999. And these would be called A Love Story. On the packaging, you do not see the words Titanic or Jack or Rose anywhere, but it's very obvious. We do see the Heart of the Ocean necklace and a ship that looks a lot like the Titanic. Here we would get, I believe, 2 Jack dolls, so 2 different looks for Jack, and then apparently for Rose there were a couple different looks. I found 2 images of 2 different looks, one where she's wearing this purple outfit and one where she's wearing this yellow and plaid outfit. So obviously these are not inspired by what she wears in the movie, but she does come with the Heart of the Ocean necklace. Next, also in 1999, Madame Alexander would release this Celine Dion 10-inch doll, and of course this is not meant to look like Celine Dion, it's meant to look like Madame Alexander's classic style, but she comes wearing, I think, a very dark blue velvet dress. She comes with the Heart of the Ocean necklace and a microphone, so that way she can sing her heart out. This is so interesting. I had no idea that there was ever any kind of Celine Dion doll, but I guess we do have one made by Madame Alexander, and I think she's really cute. Next, this one is really interesting. The company Danbury Mint, I believe also in 1999, would create a doll that was inspired by a doll, or just the head of a doll that was discovered in the wreck of the Titanic. So This is also referenced throughout the movie. At the beginning of the movie, you would see this shot of a doll's head in the ocean, and it's not the real doll's head. It's just a recreation prop for the movie. And throughout the movie, you would see a character named Cora who would have a little doll. And there was also the survivor, Eva Hart, who apparently, she had a doll on the ship too, and her doll was discovered, or at least just the head of her doll was discovered in the wreck and would later be auctioned off. Regardless, Danbury Mint was fascinated by this whole concept of the doll's head in the wreck of the Titanic, and they made a doll inspired by that. So she's just wearing this pretty generic sailor-looking maritime outfit, and there was this little article alongside a promotional image of the doll that says, "When the wreck of the Titanic was discovered, a porcelain doll's head was found lying among the debris. For nearly 75 years, this treasure has lain on the ocean floor, a silent witness to the events of that tragic night. Perhaps this sweet doll was a beloved possession of a young girl, or maybe it was a souvenir for a loved one. It remains a mystery forever." Introducing the Titanic doll, a beautiful porcelain collector doll inspired by the famous antique artifact, whose appeal is timeless and whose story is endless and fascinating. And I mean, I'm sure that there were probably many children who had dolls on the ship, so there's probably many dolls among the debris in the wreck. Next, I think also in 1999, the company exclusive premiere would release a line of dolls called The History of the Titanic. And I believe these are about 9-inch figures slash dolls, whatever you want to call them. So we would get some real life characters. So no more Jack and Rose. This time we are getting actual people who were on board the ship, such as Captain E.J. Smith. He was the captain of the Titanic who went down with the ship. We would also get Thomas Andrews, who was the head designer of the ship. He also went down with the ship, and that scene in the movie where he is just standing there like staring at the clock without his life vest is so haunting, because he's just like accepting his fate that he's going down with this ship that he designed. We would also get Jacob John Astor, who was a businessman and passenger on the Titanic. Now, he asked to accompany his pregnant wife on a lifeboat, but he was denied, so he did go down with the ship, sadly. And lastly, we would get our only survivor in this lineup of dolls. We would get the unsinkable Margaret Brown, and she was famously known to have urged everyone on her lifeboat. She was on lifeboat number 6, and she had urged everyone that they should return back to the Titanic to pick up more potential survivors. But she was unsuccessful. No one else on the lifeboat wanted to go back. But that was not the only doll that we would get of Molly Brown. Also, I believe in 1999, the company Marianne Aldred would give us this porcelain doll. She was about 25 inches tall. This was a part of the Exclusively Yours collection. She was limited to only 500 dolls. And the company Jane McLean would also, in 1999, give us some more Molly Brown dolls. Now, these ones, I guess, were maybe 21 inches, also a part of an Exclusively Yours collection. And we would get 2 different dolls. These were called the heroine of the Titanic. We would get one wearing a red dress and one wearing a white dress. And I actually did find one more Molly Brown doll. This doll is produced by Susan Joaquin, I think is how you say it, and she's about 18.5 inches tall. Next, Madame Alexander again, also 1999. I feel like 1999, they just kept making tons and tons and tons of Titanic merch for some reason, in doll form. But now we are back to fictional characters. So 1999, Madame Alexander, there was a series of books called Dear America, and one of those books was called The Voyage on the Great Titanic, and it centered around the fictional character Margaret Ann Brady, who is depicted here as an 18-inch doll. And I think it's interesting that this is called Dear America, because I feel like Titanic is more Irish, European than it is American. I know it was headed to America, but it was made in Ireland, so. And apparently there were only about 300 or 306 Americans on the Titanic on its maiden voyage out of the 2,240 passengers. So yeah, it's interesting. It's called Dear America. But you know what? Maybe I didn't read this book. Maybe the book is about a little American on the Titanic. So there you go. Next, one of my favorites on this list, we have the Franklin Mint collection. I think in the year 2000, maybe. I could be wrong. I don't know why it's like so hard for me to find the years on these things, but this was a 16-inch portrait vinyl doll meant to resemble Rose from the movie, and this collection is so incredible. We would get every single outfit except the pink coat. that Rose wore in the movie. Even down to her undergarments, we've got this corset moment, which I love that scene in the movie where her mom is like tying up her corset and they're arguing. And Franklin Mint would also make a trunk. This trunk was a little bit bigger than the Robert Tonner. There was a little more room, a little more shelves to put things and hang things up. They also made the safe, which is so cute, and they also made a vanity, which apparently is rather rare, but it looks very, very well crafted and detailed. And while you could buy just the doll wearing a couple of those different outfits that they made for her, most of them, the most common one would be the one of her wearing the red jumping dress. And I mean, if I had the space and the money, I would want this entire collection. But Franklin Mint also made 2 porcelain dolls. Correction, they would actually make at least 3. I found one more. I think these were maybe like 1 or 2 inches taller than the portrait vinyl. Regardless, we would get a doll of Rose wearing the flying dress when she and Jack are like flying on the Titanic at the tip of the ship. And then we would also get the wedding in heaven dress that we see her wearing at the very, very end of the movie. And that wedding dress looks so beautiful. And then here's this third one that I just found. So she, of course, is wearing the boarding dress. And then next, finally, for the 10-year anniversary of the movie, Mattel would give us the Titanic Barbie right here. So she is also wearing the red jumping dress. She comes packaged with this very cool, it's like she's flying, like the moment where she's flying on the tip of the ship. And here we can get a slightly better look at her. Her dress is really nice too. It looks like some embroidered glittery details all over her dress. And we've got those cute little shoes and then this lacy train down here. I would love to like take her out and see this outfit better, but I love the packaging for this. And of course she's got the Mackie face mold and the beautiful red hair. She has the earrings. And then on the back of the box, we see this little blurb about the movie, a little bit about the characters, and then a little bit about the doll itself. And I so wish that Mattel would have done what they did for other movies like My Fair Lady or Breakfast at Tiffany's or Gone with the Wind, where they would release multiple dolls wearing various different outfits. I wish we would have gotten that. That would have been so cool. I know this outfit is very iconic, but it would have been cool if they did give us more, especially something with the Heart of the Ocean necklace. Like why? I know she doesn't wear that necklace with this outfit, but like they could have packaged it, you know, off to the side, just like as a little extra. But it would be so much fun to try to make one. Next, in 2012, for the 100th anniversary of the Titanic's sinking, we would get this Kate Winslet as Rose from the Titanic doll by Dansbury Mint. And I think this is like the first doll to actually use Kate Winslet's name on any of the packaging or like product description. So this doll, of course, is a 16-inch vinyl doll. She's wearing the red jumping dress. I think they did a good job with the face. Like it does look like Kate Winslet, sort of. And this doll was actually made to order, apparently. Next, I do not have any dates for this, and I don't even know really much about this, but somewhere, somehow, photos of a Madame Alexander Cissy doll wearing various outfits from the Titanic movie appeared in this little like booklet, pamphlet, catalog. I don't know what this is. I tried my best to try and research it, but I truly don't know anything about this. So I'm assuming maybe these are just fan made. They're just one of a kind. But they look so amazing, so well crafted. Again, very detailed, very movie accurate, and like this is so cool. I'm assuming maybe this is the 21-inch Cissy doll from Madame Alexander, but I really have no idea. I would love to learn more about this and the whereabouts of these outfits. Sometimes on the images in this little like catalog, it would say the designer of one of the outfits, but then sometimes it would say like the designer of this outfit is unknown. So I don't know what was going on, but it would have also been cool if Madame Alexander did some Rose from Titanic dolls, because the Celine one is really cool, but it would have been cool to have gotten characters from the movie. It would have been cool if someone did a Jack doll. I don't know why we don't have any Jack dolls. Next, I do not know the year for this one either. I apologize, but we would get this Maritime Heritage collection. And if you look at the box, the name of the company there is Harland and Wolff, which is the company that built the Titanic for White Star Line. So I guess they also made some Titanic merchandise later on. These dolls were about 19.5 inches tall, and we would get 3 characters. We would get Captain E.J. Smith again. We would also get our designer Thomas Andrews. And we would also get Jack Phillips, who was a wireless operator, and apparently he helped to coordinate the rescue of survivors by contacting the Carpathia, so that way they would come later on to pick up any survivors. And sadly, it is not known how, but he didn't survive the sinking. It's not known if he got on a lifeboat and just died from exposure to the freezing elements, or if he like sunk with the ship. So I'm sorry this video is so kind of depressing. And lastly, I do want to talk about these amazing 1/6 scale Barbie-sized one-of-a-kinds by Dale McCarthy Arts. So you can check out Dale McCarthy Arts on Instagram, but he has so many amazing one-of-a-kinds, especially these Rose from Titanic outfits. He's made, again, almost every single outfit that we see Rose wearing in the movie Titanic, including the coat, the pink coat that like no one else gave us, which is such an iconic piece of her wardrobe from that movie. But these outfits are so incredible. They're so detailed. They're so accurate. I would love to see these in person. Like, Dale McCarthy needs to open a museum with his customs because he's done so many amazing things. So that is it. We looked at some various dolls inspired by the Titanic. And of course, there might be more out there that I didn't discover when I was researching. So please let me know in the comments if you know of any other dolls inspired by the Titanic. I hope that you thought these dolls were as beautiful and fascinating and interesting as I do. Let me know if you own any of the Titanic dolls. Let me know what are your favorite outfits that Rose wears in the movie. Let me know all of your thoughts, and as always, I will see you all next time. Bye!